All right, let's talk about one of the biggest demographic stories on the entire planet, the Great Indian Family Plan. So, to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to start with a number, a really big one. Right now, India is home to more than 1.37 billion people. That makes it the second most populous country in the world, for now. And that's changing fast. The UN projects that by 2027, that's just around the corner, India is set to become the most populous country in the world, overtaking China. Now, this isn't just a number on a chart. This kind of rapid growth shapes everything: policy, resources, and the daily lives of over 1 billion people. And that really brings us to the core question here, doesn't it? How does a country like India try to balance the needs of the nation's future with the personal choices of its people? It's a super delicate balancing act, and honestly, it's one India has been grappling with for a long, long time. So let's get into it. Why this intense focus on population in the first place? What's the thinking behind it? Well, the argument for it, which you'll see from groups like the India Greens Party, is pretty straightforward. A massive, fast-growing population puts a huge strain on, well, everything. We're talking natural resources like water and land, the economy, you name it. So from this perspective, managing that growth is seen as the clearest way to a better standard of living for everybody. Okay, so that's the why. But what about the how? How did India actually decide to approach this population puzzle? Because believe me, the official strategy has taken some pretty dramatic turns over the years. India was actually one of the first countries in the world to launch a national family planning program, way back in 1952. But things took a really dark turn in the 1970s. There was a period of coercive, state-sponsored sterilizations that understandably created a massive public backlash and a lot of distrust. The real turning point came in 1994 at a big international conference. After that, India officially changed its tune. The whole approach was supposed to shift away from hitting targets and move towards a new idea, one centered on reproductive rights and personal choice. And this table really breaks down that massive philosophical shift. You can see it right here. The old way was all about the state hitting demographic targets, sometimes through coercion, just to limit births. The new way was supposed to be all about the individual, informed choice, consent, a client-focused approach that looked at holistic health, not just numbers. So, on paper, the policy is all about this wide basket of choices. Sounds great, right? But when you actually look at the data, a very, very different story starts to unfold. Okay, take a look at these numbers. This is what's actually happening on the ground. What jumps out immediately is the dominance of one single method: female sterilization, almost 38%. Now, compare that to everything else. Condoms are at 9.5%, the pill at 5.1%, and look all the way down at male sterilization. It's just 0.3%. The disparity is just huge. And this donut chart just drives the point home in a really visual way. If you look at the entire mix of all modern contraceptives used in India, female sterilization makes up a whopping 2/3 of it. 2/3. So here's the key takeaway. The policy might talk about a basket of choices, but in reality, the system is overwhelmingly reliant on this one permanent method for women. So, with that in mind, what does this procedure actually entail for the millions of women who go through it? Let's zoom in and take a look at the specifics. Okay, so this isn't something you just walk in and get. There's a whole pre-operation checklist, and this is just an excerpt from the official manual. It's a serious medical procedure. They check for all kinds of things. If she's married, if she has a child over a year old, they check her hemoglobin levels, and, this is crucial, they make sure she gives informed consent and understands it's a legal document. It's very formal. And it's not just about the screening. Inside the clinic, safety is a huge deal. This diagram from a training manual, for example, shows these super strict protocols for separating infectious waste. It's all about preventing infection, and it just shows you how much precision and care is supposed to go into this. And what about after? Well, recovery is an instant. The post-op instructions are clear. Rest for a day, only light work for 48 hours, no heavy lifting for a whole week. You have to keep the incision clean and dry. The point is, this isn't a small thing. It has a real, tangible impact on a woman's life, on her ability to work, to care for her family, right after the surgery. Okay, so we have this disconnect, right? The policy says choice, but the reality is one single dominant method. So who's the person on the ground making this happen? That brings us to the health workers, the boots on the ground. And we need to talk about the ASHA worker. ASHA stands for Accredited Social Health Activist. These women, they are the absolute backbone of rural healthcare in India. They're the first person you see for any health issue. Now, what's important to know is that they aren't salaried employees. They're volunteers from the community who get paid based on performance. They get incentives for the services they deliver, and that includes family planning. And the ASHAs themselves, they know exactly how important they are to the system. Listen to this quote from one ASHA worker. She says, "Government knows it that due to ASHAs, how much progress has been made, how many operations for sterilization are being done, that government knows. They see a direct line between their work and the number of sterilizations happening. They know they're the engine of the program." But here's where the official policy and the on-the-ground reality really start to clash. Officially, remember, the program is target-free. But ASHAs report that they're under pressure to meet what are called expected levels of achievement, or ELAs. And for a lot of them, well, ELAs feel an awful lot like targets, just with a different name. And this next quote, wow, it is so revealing. An ASHA worker explains, "We bring case after 4 or 5 children. That is not considered. Those who get done after 2, that is big case. That is good case." Did you catch that? Helping a woman with 4 or 5 kids isn't seen as a good case. The real prize, the big case, is getting a woman sterilized after she's had exactly 2 children. That points to a really powerful systemic pressure to create a very specific kind of family. So let's pull all of this together. You've got the official policy, you've got the hard data, and you've got these voices from the people on the ground. And when you look at it all, this deep, fundamental tension just snaps into focus. On one side, you have the policy. It says, we offer a wide basket of choices. It says, we are target-free. It says, we are all about reproductive rights. But then you look at the practice, the reality, and it's a system that heavily, heavily favors one permanent method. It's driven by what feels like targets, and it seems to still have an underlying focus on population stabilization. And all of that leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. When an entire system, from the way health workers are paid to what the system itself defines as a good case, when all of it is pushing in one specific direction, is the choice that someone makes within that system truly free? It's a tough question, and it gets right to the heart of what's happening with India's great family plan.